All right, so get ready because we are diving deep into the world of Exchange hosting. And we've got a lot to cover, but trust me, it's a lot more interesting than it might sound at first. I mean, think about it this way. Your company's email completely crashes. It's dead in the water. No way to contact clients, no access to schedules, total chaos. So we're going to talk about how to prevent that nightmare, and not just prevent it, but actually make your whole communication system smoother, faster, more secure, all thanks to Exchange hosting.
Yeah, it's amazing how many businesses rely on email every day but don't actually know how it all works.
Right. It's like magic happening behind the scenes. So let's break it down. Instead of your company trying to manage its own email servers, and all that entails, like the hardware, the software updates, the security patches, all that, you're basically just tapping into a professionally managed system that takes care of all that for you. It's like having a dedicated IT team just for your email, but without having to pay all the salary.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Exchange hosting is essentially outsourcing your email, calendar, and contacts to the experts.
So we've kind of dipped our toes in. Now let's go a little deeper. So we've got these things called email servers, right? They're basically like digital post offices, sorting and delivering all those emails flying back and forth. And then there's the contact and calendar management side, which keeps everyone on the same page and makes scheduling meetings a breeze.
Yeah, and one of the best things is that Exchange hosting is designed to integrate with your existing system. It's about improving what you already have, not ripping it all out and starting from scratch.
Gotcha. Okay, so that makes sense. But why would a company choose to go this route instead of just doing it all themselves? Wouldn't that give them more control?
Well, you'd think so, right? But in reality, managing your own email service can be a real nightmare. You're constantly worrying about hardware, software updates, security patches. The list goes on. And if something goes wrong, and let's face it, it will eventually go wrong, then you're the one that everyone's going to be looking at to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a fun position to be in. I mean, who hasn't experienced their company email just completely going down for hours or struggling to sync calendars across different devices? It's a huge productivity killer.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what Exchange hosting aims to solve. With a professionally managed service, you basically get a whole team of experts who are dedicated to making sure your communication is always running smoothly.
So that means I could work from anywhere, on my phone, laptop, whatever, and my emails, calendar, contacts are all right there, up to date, and ready to go. That sounds like a dream for productivity.
Exactly. It's all about empowering your team to work effectively no matter where they are.
Okay, so we've talked about the basics and why ditching that whole DIY approach can be a lifesaver. But the tech world's always changing, right? There's always new buzzwords popping up like the cloud and SaaS. Where do those fit into all of this?
Yeah, you're right. That's the modern edge of Exchange hosting. That's where things get really interesting. So SaaS, or software as a service, it's basically like streaming services, but for your email. Instead of owning and managing all the physical infrastructure, you just access everything online. So no more complex installations or endless updates because the provider handles all that for you.
So Exchange Online, which I feel like I hear about everywhere these days, that's a SaaS solution.
Exactly. And it adds a whole other level of flexibility. So let's say you need more storage as your business grows. No problem.
Yeah.
Or maybe you want to customize things to better fit your workflow. Exchange Online can often do that.
This is what I'm really interested in. So you mentioned that Exchange hosting can work well with your existing IT infrastructure, but with SaaS, you can take that integration even further, right?
Oh, absolutely. Just imagine Exchange working perfectly with SharePoint, for example.
Yeah.
Which is great for sharing files and working together on documents. And then it also works with Office 365, which gives you access to all those productivity tools, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all that. It's all about creating this really integrated and efficient work environment.
Okay, so far, Exchange hosting is sounding pretty incredible. But I know there's this big question that everyone's thinking about when we talk about putting our company's communication in the cloud. What about security?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's definitely something we should talk about. There are a lot of misconceptions about cloud security floating around out there.
So it's not like this super vulnerable place where all our data is just out there unprotected.
Not at all. Professionally managed Exchange hosting actually has really strong security baked right in. Think about it as multiple layers of protection, strong passwords, access control, all those standard security features, and they're constantly being updated to fight off things like viruses and spam.
So it's kind of like having a 24/7 security team protecting your email.
Exactly. And with Exchange hosting, you're getting the expertise of dedicated security professionals who are proactively monitoring and managing those risks. They're always looking out for new threats and implementing updates to stay ahead of the curve.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's be real for a second. No system is completely foolproof, right?
Of course, there's always going to be some level of risk, no matter what system you're using. But the important thing here is that with Exchange hosting, you're basically handing over the responsibility of security management to the experts. It's like having a whole team of cybersecurity specialists working behind the scenes to protect your data.
That's got to be a huge relief for business owners.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of Exchange hosting and why it can be a smart move for businesses, and how those SaaS solutions like Exchange Online are bringing this modern edge to email communication. And we've even tackled the whole security question head on and hopefully busted some myths along the way.
Right. And it's important to remember that Exchange hosting isn't like a one-size-fits-all solution. There are different types of hosting options out there, each with their own pros and cons.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's not like you can just pick any random Exchange hosting provider and expect everything to be perfect. There are definitely some things you need to consider to make sure you're choosing the right solution for your specific business needs.
Exactly. Things like the size of your company, your industry, your budget, and your specific security requirements will all play a role in determining the best fit.
So it sounds like doing some research and maybe even talking to an IT expert
Right?
would be a good idea before you make any decisions.
Absolutely. It's crucial to find a provider that really understands your business needs and can tailor a solution that meets those needs effectively. You've mentioned effective communication and collaboration a few times. Can you talk a bit more about why that's so important in today's business world?
Well, think about it. In today's world, everything's so fast-paced, and business is global, it's all over the place. Companies need to be able to communicate instantly and collaborate effectively if they want to stay ahead of the game. And that means having communication tools that are reliable, secure, and easy to access.
So it's not just about sending emails back and forth anymore.
Definitely not. It's about having a platform that enables real-time collaboration, easy document sharing, and streamlined workflows. It's all about breaking down the barriers between teams and creating this culture of open communication.
So having a solid and secure email system like Exchange hosting can actually play a big part in a company's overall success.
I think so. It's not just some technical detail, it's a strategic asset. And as more and more companies move towards remote work and flexible work arrangements, having a communication infrastructure you can rely on is even more crucial.
You're right. We often talk about technology as a way to boost productivity and efficiency, but sometimes we forget about its role in building better communication and teamwork.
Yeah, it's true. Think about it. When your team can communicate easily and efficiently, when they can get the information they need quickly, and when they can collaborate on projects without any issues, it creates a much more positive and productive work environment.
And happier teams generally lead to better results for the whole business.
Exactly. So while Exchange hosting might seem like it's just a techie topic, it's really about so much more. It's about giving people the tools they need to work together effectively and achieve great things.
Well said.
Okay, I'm feeling pretty inspired now. But before we get too carried away, let's bring it back to our listener. What are some of the key takeaways they should keep in mind when they're thinking about their own communication needs?
That's a great question. I think the most important thing is to really assess your current communication setup. Are the tools you're using now actually meeting your needs? Are there any areas where things aren't working well? Or where you could improve efficiency or security? Don't just assume that what you've always done is the best way to go. Technology is constantly changing, and there might be better solutions out there that you haven't even considered.
It's like holding onto that old clunky flip phone when you could have a smartphone that does it all.
Exactly. Once you have a good understanding of what you need, then you can start exploring all the different Exchange hosting options. Do your research, compare providers, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Remember, it's not just about the technical specs.
Right. You also need to think about things like customer support, service level agreements, and providers' overall reputation. Choosing the right Exchange hosting partner is a big decision, so take your time and make an informed choice.
I completely agree.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've demystified Exchange hosting, talked about its benefits, addressed those security concerns, and even touched on its role in building a great team. But before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listener with one final thought. What about the future of Exchange hosting? What trends or innovations should we be looking out for?
Well, as we move towards a world that's even more interconnected, with an even greater reliance on cloud-based solutions and remote work, I think we can expect to see an even stronger focus on security and data privacy.
That makes sense. As we entrust more and more of our sensitive information to the cloud, those protections become even more important. Anything else?
I also think we'll see continued innovation in areas like artificial intelligence and machine learning, which could further enhance the capabilities of Exchange hosting and create even more seamless and intuitive communication experiences.
So things like AI-powered email assistants that can anticipate our needs and automate tasks, that sounds pretty amazing.
Exactly. It's a really exciting time to be involved in business communication, and Exchange hosting is definitely at the forefront of that evolution.
Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into Exchange hosting, I want to bring it back to our listener one last time. If you had to give them just one piece of advice, one golden nugget of wisdom, what would it be?
If I had to sum it all up in one key takeaway, it would be this. Don't underestimate the power of effective communication. It's the heart of any successful business, and investing in the right tools and infrastructure to support it is absolutely essential.
I love that. And on that note, I think it's time to bring this deep dive to a close. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of Exchange hosting. We hope you find it informative, insightful, and maybe even a little inspiring. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those communication channels open.
It's really important to remember that Exchange hosting isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. There are different types of hosting options available, and each one has its own pros and cons.
Oh yeah, definitely. You can't just pick any Exchange hosting provider and expect it to work perfectly for your business. There are definitely things you need to consider when you're choosing the right solution for your needs.
Right. Things like how big your company is, the industry you're in, your budget, and what your specific security requirements are. All of those things will help you figure out the best fit.
So it sounds like doing a little research and maybe even talking to an IT expert would be a smart move before making any decisions.
Absolutely. It's super important to find a provider who really gets your business and can set up a solution that works for you. You've mentioned effective communication and collaboration a few times. Can you talk a little more about why those things are so crucial in the business world today?
Well, I mean, think about it. Everything's so fast-paced now and business is global. Companies really have to be able to communicate instantly and work together smoothly if they want to stay ahead of the curve. That means having communication tools that are reliable, secure, and easy for everyone to use.
It's definitely more than just sending emails back and forth these days.
Right. Right. It's about having a platform that allows for real-time collaboration, easy document sharing, and workflows that just make sense. It's all about getting rid of those barriers between teams and creating a culture where everyone feels comfortable communicating openly.
So a robust and secure email system like Exchange hosting could actually play a big role in a company's overall success.
Absolutely. It's not just some technical detail, it's a strategic asset. And as more companies move towards remote work and flexible schedules, having a communication infrastructure you can rely on becomes even more critical.
Yeah, you're right. We always talk about technology as a way to boost productivity and efficiency, but we sometimes forget about how it can improve communication and teamwork.
It's true. When your team can communicate easily and quickly, when they can find the information they need without any hassle, and when they can collaborate on projects without running into problems, it just creates a much more positive and productive environment for everyone.
And happier teams usually mean better results for the company as a whole.
Exactly. So even though Exchange hosting might seem like a purely technical subject, it's really about a lot more than that. It's about empowering people to work together effectively and achieve amazing things.
Very well said.
Okay. I'm feeling pretty inspired now. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's bring it back to our listener for a second. What are some of the key things they should be thinking about when they're trying to figure out their own communication needs?
That's a great question. I think the most important thing is to really take a close look at your current communication setup. Are the tools you're using actually doing what you need them to do? Are there any areas where you're running into problems? Or places where you could be more efficient or improve security? Don't just assume that because you've always done something a certain way, that it's the best way. Technology is always changing. And there might be much better solutions out there that you don't even know about.
It's like sticking with that old flip phone when you could have a smartphone that can do it all.
Exactly. Once you understand your needs, you can start looking into all the different Exchange hosting options out there. Do your research, compare different providers, and ask questions. Don't forget, it's not just about the technical specs.
Right. You also need to consider things like their customer support, the service level agreements they offer, and their overall reputation. Choosing the right Exchange hosting partner is a big decision, so take your time and do your homework.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, we have covered a lot of ground today. We've explained what exchange hosting is all about, talked about the benefits, addressed those security concerns, and even touched on how it can help build a stronger team. But before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. What about the future of exchange hosting? What trends or innovations should we be paying attention to?
As we move towards a world that's even more interconnected,
Ella.
with a greater reliance on cloud-based solutions and remote work, I think security and data privacy are going to be even more important.
Yeah, that makes sense. The more of our sensitive information we put in the cloud, the more we need to make sure it's protected. What else?
I think we'll also see a lot of innovation in areas like artificial intelligence and machine learning, which could make exchange hosting even more powerful
Hmm.
and create communication experiences that are even more seamless and intuitive.
So like AI-powered email assistants that can kind of predict what we need and automate tasks. That sounds pretty amazing.
Exactly. It's a really exciting time to be involved in the world of business communication,
Mm.
and exchange hosting is at the forefront of that evolution.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into exchange hosting, I want to bring it back to our listener one last time. What's the one piece of advice you'd give them? That one golden nugget of wisdom they should take away from all of this?
If I had to boil it all down to one key takeaway, it would be this. Never underestimate the power of good communication. It's really the foundation of any successful business. And investing in the right tools to make that communication happen is essential. Think of it as investing in your company's future.